Hello and welcome to CAN TV Conversations. I'm Emily Zuhowski. Today we're talking about the future of the theater industry. It has been an unprecedented year that forced most theaters to close their curtains. Joining me now is 23-year-old performer Rachel Cozart, who has worked professionally for Disney Cruise Line. Rachel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, Emily.
Hi, so first let's dive into your background. You started performing at a young age, right?
Yes, I did. My mom was a dancer, so I started as soon as she could get me in class, I was in class.
Yeah, so how did you first get into theater and how did you stick with it all these years?
My studio that I trained at actually had a pretty big theater background, so I started singing and acting probably around the age of 12, 13 is when I really got into more musical theater style. And then I attended a performing arts college in Southern California where I trained more so in musical theater.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like your career has kind of taken you all over. Where are some of the places you've been able to go?
Yes, so initially I began touring with a nonprofit music outreach group. So I actually was able to go all across Europe, primarily through Germany and Poland. And then I did 2 tours to Japan, teaching and performing there. And I've done a United States national tour. And then my most previous contract was with Disney Cruise Line. And we went to the Bahamas. That was our that was our route.
Wow, that is just incredible. And it seems like you were used to traveling so much and performing before the pandemic hit. And once those hit, both of those things were virtually impossible. So what was the beginning of the pandemic like for you? Where were you?
Yes, so I was actually on my second contract with Disney Cruise Line. I was serving as my cast dance captain. We had just rehearsed for 2 months in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And then they flew us down to the ship. We boarded the ship. We had done 2 weeks of rehearsal, 6 shows, and then COVID-19 shut us down. So I was actually out at sea performing when COVID-19 happened. I was one of the lucky ones. We were only stuck at sea for about 6 weeks, where I had some other friends of mine who were stuck for some close to 6 months out at sea for a long time.
Wow. So what was that like when you got that news? You were on that cruise ship. What was running through your mind?
I think one of the many things that performers went through this past year is hearing that word non-essential. So especially working on a cruise ship, it's extremely expensive for them to have us there. Of course, the company treats us really well. And when they were not sailing, they had no income coming in, they just couldn't keep us. And obviously hearing that word non-essential that we became so used to hearing throughout this entire year, I think that was one of the biggest adjustments, was realizing that, oh, like the world is seriously changing and this art form is really not important, quote unquote, right now. There are things that are more important, and we really had to shift our focus that way and try to take care of ourselves mentally and emotionally on board, knowing that we weren't sure when we were going to have our jobs back.
And, kind of along those lines, without performances, after you got off that cruise ship, how did you still stay connected to your craft?
I think there was definitely a period of mourning. It sounds a bit dramatic, but I know I can speak for myself and most of my community that there was a lot of grief that came with this year. A lot of grief of losing not only our jobs, but for many people, it was their sole purpose and also their community of people. I mean, I think everyone, whether performers or not, can relate to that. But we lost a really fierce community, just the cohesiveness and the passion that exists within our industry. We lost that for a while. Yeah.
And what were your colleagues doing during this? Do you have people that had to leave the industry because of everything that was going on?
Yes, I do. It's insane and honestly really hopeful to see what people were able to accomplish this year. I myself, I went back to school at the University of Michigan, Flint, to finish my degree in psychology in an online program that hopefully I can keep doing when I return to work on the ship. But I have friends who got real estate licenses. I have friends who just kind of got what we would previously call survival jobs, who really just worked through this entire year. Some people really took a break and were collecting unemployment. or just really finding different ways to find a purpose and focus. And I know also that a lot of people really struggled with that. Like I said, whether performers or not performers, but especially performers, because we were so disenfranchised this year.
And where did you find that motivation to keep going?
It was tough sometimes. I think it really was in the community, even though we lost our relative closeness. It was in each other's small little glimpses of creating and small little glimpses of inspiration that would kind of propel you forward to this is temporary, this will end. And I know all of us had a difficult time seeing that, but I also went back to teaching this year while I was home with my parents, which was a perfect way for me to find that inspiration to move forward, working with young dancers who they also lost a lot this year as well. I lost part of my career for this year, but these young dancers lost a year of the same exact thing, these young performers, and being with them and offering them a safe space and offering them emotional support as well as dance education helped me a lot through this year.
Yeah, and now over a year later, things are slowly starting to get back to normal, right? Mask mandates are being lifted, capacity limits are being lifted, and live performances are starting to begin again. And as someone who's in the industry, what have you been hearing from theaters? Are there concerns, or is it just excitement to get back to what you all love to do?
I really think it's pretty much just excitement. I think that at this point, we have all navigated this year and had to adapt so much that we don't really have that fear of adaptability as much as maybe we previously did. I think there's a lot of excitement. I think there is a lot of confidence. I will say that maybe a bit of apprehension, especially in maybe Broadway or more regional theaters, is coming from the racial reckoning that we've had this year, or trying to strive for more representation in our industry. I think that we've had an entire year to really reflect on those things that were not up to the standards they should have been. And I think that there is some apprehension returning that we want to make those changes. We want to make sure that production teams and unions are making those changes, as well as individual performers. So I think there's so much excitement and also a lot of work that we all have to do once we return to make a more inclusive industry.
Yeah, a year of learning for sure. And what do you think people can expect from attending live shows in the near future? I know things are kind of starting to open up here. Will it look and feel different, or will it kind of feel the same way it was before the pandemic?
I think at least initially it will look and feel a bit different. I think that we're going to have to shift a little bit in storytelling. I know that for some people's jobs, and even my own potential job going forward, I know that there may still for a little while be social distancing, physical distancing on stage. We might wear masks or something of that kind, maybe a face shield or something for the beginning, which can really seem to obstruct the storytelling. But I think that, like I've said, we've all been really used to adaptability this year. And I think if the audience members can suspend their disbelief a little more than usual, I think that would be really helpful. But I do think the feeling should be the same. The feeling and the storytelling and the experience of live theater, I think that's going to be the same.
Yeah, and what are your hopes for the industry and also for yourself as you prepare to dive back into it?
I think a little bit more grace is something that I hope for and really think is coming in our industry. I think more grace for ourselves, a lot less of the quote unquote hustling that we've all been so used to, so much like striving and just endless auditioning. I think that we are going to return to an industry that takes care of its performers and its production teams, backstage teams. I think that we're going to return to a place that takes better care of all of those cogs in the wheel. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to taking better care of myself now that I'm going back. I had a year of reflection
Rachel,
to know what I need.
Thank you so much. That's all the time we have. I look forward to seeing what you're up to in the next year. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching CAN TV Conversations. I'm Emily Zuhowski. Have a great day.